For the past few weeks, I have been sitting with a question. What is devotion really? You see, when June began, I made a commitment to post on social media every day. And it wasn't about the algorithm or checking a box. There was a real intention beneath it. I wanted to practice using my voice, practice visibility, practice creating without perfection, practice allowing my work to be seen before it felt finished, letting it be alive, messy, unpolished. I wanted to strengthen my relationship with my artistry. And for the first 10 days or so, I did exactly that. It felt so good to let that flow, to be impromptu instead of planned. And then life happened. The days became really full and my capacity shifted. And the inspiration wasn't arriving in the same way because I started to feel pressure creeping in. And part of me believed devotion meant continuing no matter what. But there was another part of me that was asking, is that actually true? Is it really supposed to feel this way? I don't think so. So instead of forcing myself forward, I paused and I listened. I asked my heart, God, source, life, what are you really asking of me right now? What am I really meant to learn from this devotion commitment that I've made? And what came through surprised me because the practice had changed, right? I'd stopped posting, but the devotion was still there. The reason I had committed to posting was actually still alive. I was still practicing my voice. I was still building relationship. I was still creating. I was still showing up. It simply wasn't happening in the form that I originally expected and the way that I'd planned. I was having conversations with people in my DMs. I was sharing my stories. I was speaking here with you and in my groups. I was tending to other things that were asking for my attention. So the form had evolved, but the relationship remained. And that is when I realized that devotion is not loyalty to a specific practice. It's not about proving through doing. It's about showing up because you care. It's loyalty to what matters. It's loyalty to the essence beneath the practice. Because devotion isn't really about outcomes. It's about relationship. A relationship requires presence. It requires listening. It requires tending. And it requires meeting what's alive instead of forcing what was planned or expected. And that means that devotion is not static. It evolves, it adapts, it changes shape as life changes shape. And the more I sat with this, the more another thread began weaving itself into my conscious conversation. The past week, I have been revisiting Sovereign. It's the 9-month body of work that came through me a year ago. And I noticed something remarkable. 1 year ago, almost to the day, I was preparing to share it with the world for the first time. I didn't have everything figured out. I didn't have a website. I didn't have any polished copy. I didn't have every answer. I simply had a knowing, a call coming from inside, and a body of work that wanted to be born. And I said yes. And what followed was one of the most profound initiations of my life. And I've had many. As I stewarded Sovereign and the women in it, it stewarded me. It moved me through identity shifts, grief, expansion, heartbreak, healing, and transformation. There were moments when showing up looked very different than I expected. I was faced with myself, which honestly I kind of knew I would be. But devotion remained. And not devotion to making it perfect or to a rigid structure. It was devotion to the vision, devotion to the work, devotion to what mattered. And now, 1 year later, I can feel it calling again. And not as a repeating cycle, but an invitation to spiral deeper into it, into the embodiment of it, to return with new wisdom, new perspective, more capacity to hold what was already trying to emerge, which feels especially meaningful as we approach the summer solstice this week. The solstice is often thought of as a celebration of light, and it is, but it's also a moment of revelation. It's a moment of seeing, illumination, a moment of recognizing what has already grown and what we have tended to. And I think many of us overlook that. You know, we're always focused on what's next. The next goal, the next seed that we're planting, the next chapter. And meanwhile, life is quietly waiting for us to notice what's already here. Can you see what your devotion has already created? Can you see the harvest? Because every life is built around devotion. The only question is whether that devotion is conscious. Your devotion is revealed by what you return to, what receives your attention, your energy, your time, your life force, your love. And that can be both illuminating and confronting. Because sometimes we discover we've been devoting ourselves to fear, to worry, to control, to proving, to self-abandonment. And other times we discover we've been devoting ourselves to love, to creation, to truth, to presence, to becoming. Devotion reveals what we worship, and it reveals what is growing. So maybe the question to sit with now isn't, what do I want to be devoted to? Perhaps the question is, what am I already devoted to? What have I been returning to each day? And what is growing because of that devotion? Where I'm directing my energy? You know, and if I don't like the answer, what would I rather be feeding instead? Because devotion is not about rigid consistency. It's not about forcing yourself to stay loyal to a form that doesn't serve what matters. Devotion is love in motion. It's the ongoing act of returning again and again to yourself, to your truth, to what is sacred, to what your heart knows is worthy of your life, to what you want to grow. And sometimes that return looks different than you imagined, but the relationship remains. Devotion is relationship. Relationships require tending. And so the practice or the ritual may change, but the devotion doesn't. You hold steady to the vision because of love and in the name of it. If this is the relationship you want to cultivate as a return to yourself, a reclamation of your life through devotion, my sovereign body of work is opening up very soon. So check out the link in the description. It will be there for you. I would be honored to welcome you home.